afternoon, Robert and James. We are happy that you have taken this opportunity to attend our fireside chat sessions with Bill Inmon for the next hour. We do know that you and your team are very busy with all the demands of our ever-changing world, especially our world in technology. But we do believe you'll receive a great deal of insight into your architecture and some of your challenges that you face today. I would like to introduce to you Bill Inmon. He is best known as the father of data warehousing and a thought leader in our world of data, and that includes all types of data. Bill Inmon has become one of the most prolific and well-known authors worldwide in the data arena, with starting out in the early days of data modeling, introducing the world and all of us to data warehousing, business intelligence, big data with both structured and unstructured data as some of his key areas. In addition to Bill authoring more than 60 books and thousands of articles and white papers, Bill has been a monthly columnist with the Business Intelligence Network, with also EIM Institute, and then Data Management Review. A few of Bill's latest books are The Voice of the Customer, which is a great book helping customers see how important it is to not only listen, but hear what your customers are saying about your services, your products. Really a nice look at what we can do with data to help better understand our customers. The next one he has is Integrating Data, which is a great book on just showing you how to, all the issues, all the challenges, many challenges of integrating data. And then the one he wrote also, the third one is a methodology for building the data lakehouse. These are some of his latest books. He's working on two books right now, which are just going to be fantastic. One is AI and Medical Records, Modernizing Medical Research. And this one is coming out soon and will be a very nice one in the health industry, the medical industry. And then another one that'll be just a fun one to read is The History of Computers and Data, which Bill is currently working on. So since Bill's introduction of data warehousing concept in the late 1980s and 1990s, Bill has continued his work with data and data architecture, with his latest work being in the area of unstructured data, focusing on being able to utilize unstructured data in our analysis activities with the use of AI tools and concepts. So with that, I will turn this over to Bill Inmon to provide you a short introduction and then to get into your specific requests and challenges. So Bill, you're on now. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. First off, it's a pleasure to be here, James and Robert, and I hope that we can have an interesting and useful discussion today. As far as I'm concerned, we can talk about anything you want to talk about. But Patty was absolutely right. My latest effort that I've been doing with my time is working towards healthcare and technology. So that's kind of where my mind is at right now. So with that, let's go ahead and give James and Robert a chance to ask questions or do whatever. This is free-form conversation. We can talk about anything you want to talk about.
No, thanks, Bill. For your time, first and foremost. This is a pleasure to have some time with one of the forefather in the data management space, and we did come with some thoughts and so forth that we'd love to get your ideas and information on where you think the trends and so forth are going. We are a healthcare company, but but we spend a lot of times in healthcare analytics, and one of the challenges that we've seen is we're all used to like structured information. We have information that's coming from our emergency healthcare system, EMR systems, and our EHR systems that are out there. But we're having a challenge of really assembling all of that information together in a useful way. One of the questions that we have from my team is around how do you go through at merging information that's coming from your structured data? In our case, we're getting information from our Epic system, and collate that information with like some of the unstructured information that we have out there. We take notes is one thing, but we do a lot that's audio as well, where we actually speak our notes and so forth as well. And we just don't know how to go about capturing that information. Definitely love to understand how you would attack that.
Certainly. First off, in order to give you a complete answer, I have to tell you, it's taken me 20 years of my life to understand what I understand. That's a very, very complex question. So let me go ahead and talk about a couple of things. First off, language itself in healthcare and everywhere else is one of the most complex things that you can imagine. Our brains are stuffed with rules from the time we start to learn to talk and speak and read and write. We were learning rule after rule after rule. And what happens is that these rules get tucked away. I don't know where in your brain they're tucked away. They're tucked away somewhere. And as we speak and communicate, our brain is in the background processing huge number of rules. And as humans, we don't even think we do that, but we do. But when you start to work with a computer, the computer doesn't know all of these rules, and you've got to mitigate that one way or the other. So number one, language itself is a very complex subject. Let me give you one quick example. Do you know what the word fire means? I'm going to tell you right now to your face, you don't know what the word fire means. And why don't you know what the word fire means? Is because in order to understand fire, you've got to understand context. Because fire without context is a meaningless word. Because fire can mean the building's burning down. Fire can mean you take a gun and pull the trigger. Fire can mean your boss gets mad at you and you have to find a new job. Fire can mean lots of things. So that's the first complicating factor is language itself. But there's a second complicating factor with healthcare in particular, and that's the fact that if you were to look at the totality of the words in the English language, what you would find is it is estimated that there's 660,000 or so words in the English language, and 600,000 of those words deal with medicine. That far and away, in terms of vocabulary, medicine eclipses everything under the sun. And for example, my wife is a doctor, and she has shown me her dictionary of medical terms. That dictionary is that thick, and you can open up pages of that dictionary and see words you got no idea what this word is saying. Having gone through some of this stuff, what the heck is a gira? What is a hilus? I mean, these words like what? You are speaking English, but quite frankly, it's a different language. So the challenge then, number one, language itself is a challenge. And number two, the medical profession language is especially difficult because of the words. The third mitigating factor is the fact that when you start to do research, when you start to do medical research, you're not looking at one or two or even 10 or 20 records. You're looking at thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of records. And so the mere fact that you have all of these records means that trying to do medical research becomes a really onerous task. So with that in mind, we took on the Herculean task. We're told that Hercules cleaned out the stables, the manure out of the stables. Well, that's what I felt like I was doing when we were facing this task, because it's a large task. But how do you start to come to grips with this task? Number one as long as the text you're dealing with is in the form of text, the answer is you can't. And I don't care who you are, how smart you are, when you're facing the complexities multiplied by 100,000, it's beyond the capability of any human being on this earth. What you've got to do is to take that text and turn it into a database, because a database can, in fact, handle 100,000 or 1,000,000 records. So the trick then becomes crossing the barrier between text and a database. So you say, okay, Bill, that's what we have technology for. We have something called datavox that does cross that barrier. Then you say, okay, Bill, how do you cross that barrier? Well, here comes the really, really fun part. The world of computers to date has been based on what's called structured data, data that comes from transactions that's highly structured, highly organized. Data that comes in the form of text is highly disorganized, that anybody can say anything or write anything that they want. So when you get into the world of text, you're playing by a different set of rules. However, you've still got to cross that barrier from text to a database. That's what datavox does. Datavox allows you to read the text and turn it into a standard database. Now, one of the features that you see when you do that working with text is you've got to have context. I mentioned the word fire a few minutes ago. Nobody knows what the word fire means unless they have context. And that's true for word after word in our vocabulary. So that's a long answer to your question, but the truth is you have to take your text, turn it into a database, capture the context, put it into a database that a programmer or an analyst can now look at. And in doing so, now you can start to do analytical processing over 100,000, or actually the number doesn't matter. It's a large number, whatever number it happens to be. And that's the approach that I would take in terms of talking about research.
Thank you, Bill. On that, no, thank you for that answer as well. I have with me a few of my colleagues from my organization. I have James Kamani, who deals a lot with the data side of storing the information and doing the analysis and so forth as well. And then I have one of my data engineers here as well, Ahmed Abdullahi, that probably have some questions and so forth as relates to like how do you handle that data when you're trying to transform that information into structured data. But I'll turn it over to James right now. I know you probably have a few questions I'd love to ask you as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, so my question is more on, and hi, Bill.
Hi,
My question
James.
is more on AI and ML for predictive analytics. So what role do you see for AI and machine learning in healthcare data warehousing, especially for predictive analytics in patient care and operational efficiency?
Well, that's a very good question. And let me tell you why it's a good question. Well, it's a good question for lots of reasons. But the reason that I see, and this is somewhat of a personal choice of mine, because this goes against what most of the industry said. When you read about AI and you read about ChatGPT and all of these people, everybody that I've seen assumes that all of these technologies are running on a foundation of what I would call solid data, that they can believe what the data is that they're operating on. And the problem is That's simply not true. That nearly every organization that I see does not have a solid foundation of data. And there's an old axiom in our profession. It's called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. And if you have the world's coolest, most sophisticated, most wonderful AI, and it's operating on data that can't be believed, you're not going to have any good result with it. That the AI is no better than the data on which it operates. So that's one perspective. Having stated that, there are a lot of very sophisticated things that people are doing with AI and technology that are, quite frankly, very exciting. But I guess I'm what you would call a fundamentalist. Uh, my fundamentalist says, mine says, AI and ML and ChatGPT are no better than the data on which they operate. In fact, I don't know if this was a hoax that I got, but somebody sent me an email just yesterday saying that the database on which ChatGPT operates has been infiltrated by the Russians. Now, I don't know if this was a joke. I don't know. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But if you find that ChatGPT is starting to have a Russian KGB influence, I don't know how you can have a lot of faith in what's being said.
Good. I have another question. It's in two parts.
Yep.
So first part is, so with platforms like datavox pioneering textual ETL, how
Yep.
do you see the integration of structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data evolving in today's ecosystems? That's part one. And then part two would be, what strategies or best practices do you recommend for organizations to fully harness the value of their diverse data assets?
Okay. There's really the question of integrating datavox and textual data with structured data, again, is a very complex question. However, from a technical standpoint, it's not complex at all, because the data that goes into datavox as text comes out in the form of a simple structured database that we turn the result into a relational database. And that relational database fits seamlessly in places like SQL Server, Oracle, DB2, Teradata, and places like that. It also fits seamlessly with people like Tableau, Qlik, Neo4j, ThoughtSpot, and people like that. So in terms of the technical fit, it's a no-brainer. It's all datavox does is produce another source of data. However, once you get into the actual integration of the data from an analytical standpoint, there's where it gets to be trickier. And I don't want to spend a long amount of time talking about some of the fundamental differences. Okay, I can't help it. I got to say a little bit about some of the fundamental differences between structured data and textual data. In structured data, people talk in terms of keys and field. When you have a customer, you've got a customer name, you've probably got a social security number, you've got other identifying information about your customer. And that would be a very typical example of structured data. But when you start to look at conversations, when you start to look at what people write, people don't write in terms of key structures. People don't write in terms of attributes. You may have a whole conversation with a person never mentioning their social security number. So physically, at the technical level, integrating the data is very easy to do. At the logical level, it's It can be done, but it's much more complex in order to do that. However, having stated that, when you do merge textual data and structured data together, when you can make that merger, some really, really interesting things come out, conclusions, observations, and insight that you could never get in any other way. So that's a little bit about how to do the integration. Could I get you to repeat the second part of the question?
Yes. So what strategies or best practices do you recommend for organizations to fully harness the value of their diverse data assets?
Okay. Again, this is a very, very large topic. And let me tell you why. Because there's really three types of data that you find in the corporation. There's structured data, which most people are used to. There's textual data, which very few people are used to. Then there's analog data, which hardly anybody is used to. And each of these types of data have their own different sets of properties. And their properties are very different. I'll tell you what it's like. Let me give you an analogy here. It's like taking a person that lives in Antarctica, taking a person that lives on the Amazon River in South America, and taking somebody that lives in the desert in the Sahara. All of these places are the Earth, but in terms of these people's life experiences and how they live and what they do, they're very, very different. So in terms of an organizational strategy, what I would tell people, come the day when you want to start to include textual data along with your structured data, do it incrementally. Start off with a small project or pilot. Go through your own, you're going to go through a learning experience when you do that. Go through the learning experience and then expand the pilot into whatever comes next, a bigger pilot. Don't try to, there's an old saying, how do you swallow an elephant? You swallow an elephant a bite at a time. If you try to swallow the elephant all at one time, you're going to choke. And so eat the elephant a bite at a time. Don't choke. And from a strategic standpoint, that's what I would recommend that you do.
Wow. No, that's great, Bill.
Lots of great questions for the webinar. And, when it comes to healthcare, we've been dealing with that since I was a senior designer at Cigna probably 20 years ago, and learned a lot there, and have been pursuing that ever since. So healthcare's got a realm of opportunity that we need to tap into.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask you, CJ, maybe you can ask Bill, as if you were in character as the head of governance for this healthcare organization, what type of questions would you like to ask Bill as it relates to that? Yeah.
Sure. As a lead in healthcare industry, we are constantly challenged with new and innovative information coming from the research areas, and we would like to make that public as soon as it becomes available. How best can we do that?
One of the glorious aspects of datavox is the speed with which it pardon me is the speed with which we operate. And not only does the technology of datavox operate quickly, but the ability to add new material adds quickly. In fact, just this morning in the webinar that I did right before I came here, they asked me 20 minutes before the webinar if I could create a new taxonomy, build a taxonomy, integrate the taxonomy into datavox, and run a test case for them. And I timed it. It took me 10 minutes. Now, this was a small taxonomy, but it took me 10 minutes to add brand new material into the system. So one of the really, in fact, perhaps the biggest strength one of the biggest strengths of datavox is the agility with which things can be done. If you can say, okay, Bill, there's a new medication, the new fancy XYZ medication. How long does that take us to integrate it into our system? Try 10 minutes time. And that in our profession, 10 minutes is instantaneous.
So Bill, can I interrupt a little bit and ask you, could you clarify for all of our guests here, the concept of taxonomies, what you're talking about when you're talking about integrating these into taxonomies quickly?
Surely, Patty. In order to process text, you need something called a taxonomy. A taxonomy is nothing more than a classification of words. In the case of healthcare, you're going to have words about medication. You're going to have words about procedures. You're going to have words about disease. You're going to have words about commonly used words that a doctor will use in his or her practice. So that's what a taxonomy is. The taxonomy plays the role of doing, actually, the taxonomy does lots of things. The number one role the taxonomy plays is it allows you to find what is of interest in the document. The second role the taxonomy plays is it allows you to infer context. And so those are the what words are you looking for, and what is the context of the words. And we've used the word fire. If I were a city worker talking about work done in the city, and I was talking about a fireman, fire would have the context of conflagration. If I were in human resources, a taxonomy for human resources, fire would have the context of dismissal. If I were in the military, fire would have the context of pulling the trigger on a gun. So a taxonomy, for all practical purposes, a taxonomy is the data model for text. Now, it's not a data model, but conceptually, it is a data model. In reality, it's actually far different from what people construe as a data model for the structured environment. And in truth, Patty, we could talk about this subject for a week because it's a very involved subject. But that's a high-level view of what a taxonomy is.
No, I like that, what you have mentioned, Bill, and, coming off character and so forth there. One of the things that may be helpful for you in that is establishing that rapport with the person that asked the question. This is a perfect opportunity, I think, Bill, for you to be like, and if you want to talk to me or talk to us a little bit more about that, I'll make sure that at the end we can set up some time so we can talk to you in more detail.
Yep, absolutely.
Makes sense? Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And Patty, by the way, please do not be bashful about interrupting me. I mean, you have my explicit permission to interrupt me anytime you want.
I'm just trying to be polite.
Yeah. So Patty's never bashful around me. So so we're good. Well, you know what? I want to turn this over also. I think Ahmed, are you still there, Ahmed?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, maybe if you like maybe some questions and so forth. I know we were talking the other day about the whole data engineering. We spend a lot of time trying to get information that's from everywhere. We either have information that's coming in from web services because we may get access to a Word document and one from one system, and then from SharePoint we may get information that's in a PDF, and then from another system we're getting information that's in the image. And so maybe you have some questions around there. I know you were trying to ask me the other day, but maybe you can ask Bill, some of those questions as relates to some of the challenges that you have in the acquisition space.
Okay. And thank you, Bill. I'm a great fan, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I read most of your books. All right. So I have a question on where do you see ETL or textual ETL fitting in modern data engineering workflow, especially in the context of ETL and also real-time, data or, log system. I'm asking this because in context also with datavox, for example, DBT, I'm just gonna pick a small one, DBT pioneered analytics engineering. They not just create a tool, a black box, but they help in, fitting in the modern data, engineering workflow. How do you see that with datavox helping data engineering folks achieve their day-to-day work?
Okay, first off, I'm not an expert on DBT. I know they exist. I know vaguely what they do. So any words that I may say are subject to being very incorrect. So I want you about DBT. As far as text is concerned, text cannot be used in the form of text for anything other than the communication. Now, you and I are talking, and we certainly are using language and text to communicate, and that's great. That's wonderful. But in terms of taking our conversation and committing it to a computer, we can't do that. Even with a recording, we can record our conversation, but even then, all you have is a recording. And in order for a person to convert conversation, and this is written text, spoken text, internet text, in any kind of text, you've got to you cross that barrier from text to the structured database environment. There may come a day someday in the future when that isn't necessary. In today's world and the world that we live in, that's the way it is today. So that if you're going to commit text to useful analytics, it has to be in the form of structured information. Now, that brings up another interesting topic. And you say, gee, why would I want to take text and put text into the form of structured information? And I got to tell you, the business value that's wrapped up in text, you can't even imagine. I'll tell you what I liken it to. My favorite analogy is text today is like California in 1848. We are told by the historians that in 1848 in California, you could walk down to the stream and just pick up gold. It was there, and nobody else was looking for it. And so you could take that gold, put it in your pocket, and become filthy rich if you were in California. And then in 1849, actually the end of 1848, they discovered gold. And in 1849, half of the east coast of the United States got into a wagon and tried to go to California. But there's so much business value that is wrapped up in the form of text that nobody is looking at today. I just got through doing a seminar on emergency room management of what a doctor's got to go through in order to manage and operate successfully in an emergency room. And I got to tell you, there is a wealth of value in being able to save the doctor unnecessary time and unnecessary hours and minutes reading text when a computer can read and analyze that text for him. And in terms of business cases, this is just This is just one little, actually tiny business case. I'll tell you another business case, one that gets my goat every time, and that is call centers. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to said, "You guys have a call center?" "Oh yeah, we got a call center." "And what do you do?" "Well, we have an operator talk to a client and we record it." I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And what is going on in your call center? And the answer comes out, "Well, our call centers calls last an average of 7.5 minutes." And I say, no, that's not what I meant when I asked what's going on in your call center. What are people saying? What products are they talking about? What products are they talking about? I'm reading the message that flashed up here. What are customers wanting? What are customers having problems with? And they say, "Oh, you can't find that out." Because what happens is these recordings get stuffed away in an archived environment and nobody ever looks at them again. And there's a wealth of information tied up in them. But and believe me, the emergency room of an organization, a call center is simply the tip of the iceberg. So anyway, in terms of what is the role of ETL? If you're going to be incorporating text into the corporate decision-making process, you've got to have textual ETL.
So Bill, we do have a new question from Brandon.
Yes,
It's in our chat. Would you like me to read it to you, or you have that?
if you could read it to me.
Brandon, would you like to share your question with us, or?
Yeah, sure. Bill, thank you so much for your time. Wanted to find out, what advice would you give to healthcare CIOs, CDOs, executives who are trying to balance legacy systems with the need for digital transformation?
What advice would I give them? I would give them the advice of probably polishing up their resume and being prepared to move on. And I mean, and I say that jokingly. I want to answer your question a little bit indirectly. Our profession, the IT profession, has the fault of looking at what I call shiny objects that vendors tell managers what they ought to be doing and buying and working on. And now in the very early days of computers, this was actually a very helpful thing. IBM in the early days did a very good job of it. But then IBM figured out, and other vendors figured out, that they could use that position of the corporate management listening to them for the purpose of making sales. And once IBM stopped being an information organization and turned into a sales organization, then other vendors come along. So every 2 to 3 years, we have a new shiny object out there that we're all told to go look at. I'll never forget the time I talked to, I'm not going to mention the name of the corporation, although you would know the name of this corporation quite well. I talked to a corporation. They said, "Oh, our corporate management has committed to spending $1 billion on big data, on Hadoop." And no, I'm not kidding. And I said, but let me show you some real business value. "Oh no, they're not interested in that. They're interested in what the vendor told them to go look at and buy." And so in terms of digital transformation and all of those subjects, as far as I'm concerned, those are, they're like the dew on a mountain meadow on a summer's day. They're going to evaporate by 10 o'clock in the morning. They're going to be all gone, and the vendor will come up with another thing. The vendors do that really makes me upset is they take old concepts, give it a new name, and sell it as if it were something that were brand new.
Brand new.
When in fact it's not brand new at all. But management listening to vendors is a sickness in our profession.
So
And-
Bill, we're coming
ahead.
close to the end.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Just want to make sure, Robert, James, CJ, Amit, Brandon, are there any other key questions? Anything that we haven't addressed yet that has just been bothering you a great deal that you would like to bring up?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest one is for us, and once again, thank you for your time here, is maybe you can give us a little bit of, Bill, of how would you be able to help an organization like us? We have put kind of a strategy together of where we want to go with from a modernization. We're trying to modernize our processes and so forth. We're trying to streamline, where healthcare is today and the changes that are happening in government and so forth. We're looking for opportunities to make the most out of the information that we have, and looking for help and so forth from there. What would you suggest that we look for when we're looking for either your type of help or help in the industry for an organization such as ours?
First off, thank you for that question. Number one. Number two, I would love to help you, but Bill Inmon is an old guy, and if you could see what my time and calendar look like, I don't have time to help him. However, I do have friends and contacts in the industry, and I would love to introduce you to them. I have confidence in the work that they do. They have a sterling track record. One of them is an organization called EON Collective, and I would very much like to, because they do have the time and they do have the expertise. On a personal basis, trying to get on my calendar is not even worth talking about. But talking to EON Collective would be a good place to start your search.
Thank you for that.
We appreciate your questions and just any comments you have. And Bill, we thank you for your insights on those questions. Well, we would like you, if you could please, if you have any additional questions, you're thinking through it, you're talking later today, and you have additional questions or comments, please get with us. Please email us, let us know what those questions are, and we can look at those and talk to you offline or get you some further information back to you. So again, thank you for taking the time with us today.